let me tell this story about how me and my buddies, with a little help from the UK government, fought a hopeless battle against a group of hackers. It all started, surprisingly not on the beach this time, but in the main menu. And don't worry, the quality gets better in just a second. You see, I was doing a live stream, and recently, me and a couple buddies had found a way to change the in-game cutscenes to any video you wanted. And so, I was doing a bit that, in all honesty, was kind of ass, where I would load in and pretend to be surprised when my loading in cutscene was something very strange. West 2, because that's where you do nut runs at.
Such a small thing.
What the fuck?
Digestive food.
I didn't even know they added that as a cutscene. That was really weird. Okay, not exactly the peak of comedy, but it does still kind of get a good chuckle out of me to think someone legitimately thought for a second this was a cutscene they added. Now to trigger this cutscene, I had just joined a random server under the number of 518, and I was just gonna leave as soon as I played this cutscene. But when I spawned in, I immediately saw this giant wall on the beach. And like some sort of base human instinct, I started following the wall to see where it ended. Is there even anything behind? Dude, there's like nothing behind the Great Wall of China. What the fuck is this? And so I followed it, but I just couldn't find the end of it. So I killed myself and spawned in a completely different spawn zone altogether, and all the same, there it was. I continued following it, and along the way I noticed that basically no resources were spawning because there was also land claim here, as well as a shit ton of logged out players who had just quit the server upon seeing this. I hadn't taken note of it at the time, but the abnormally low player count of the server was starting to make sense. And this wasn't exactly some slapped together wall. Each piece had been carefully placed so there wasn't a hole that you could squeeze between. In time, I explored every extent of this wall and saw that it covered almost the entire fucking beach of the map, except the Arctic zone. And that's when everything made sense. You see, this was a so-called isolated server, which means server transfers are completely disabled. If you tried this shit on a regular server, somebody would just transfer with C4 and bust a hole through the wall. But because you have no option except to start fresh on the server, this wall strat had actually worked. The server was fucking dead, and the effort they'd put into killing this server had been Herculean. The island is roughly 4 miles wide and roughly the same length. Considering the fact that the beaches are anything except straight lines, this wall is probably somewhere approaching 20 miles long. Keep in mind, this wall is 30 feet tall. So if you were to take this wall and put it end upon end, you would have something in the ballpark of 600 miles long. And since this server doesn't really have boosted rates, we're talking probably hundreds of hours of effort to accomplish this. That is a lot of effort to go to keep people like me out. And you know what? All that did was make me want to get in even more. So I began searching for a way in. Is this it? You can't keep a rat like me out. As soon as I found this hole, I directed a couple of my viewers in the stream to hop in the server and join me on the other side. Now in an area where resources actually spawned, we started putting together a bit of a colony. And before long, a pterodon was tamed so that I could go, scout out the whole map, and see exactly what these guys were trying to hide with that wall. With a wall like that, it would only make sense for them to have an incredibly fortified base that wouldn't take long at all to find. And then the fun could begin. So, I set out. Eventually, I had scoured the whole map and found nothing at all. This was weird, to say the least. A giant wall and nothing on the inside. At the entrance of Pat Cave, I did find a gate that belonged to them, but even after breaking in, I found nothing at all. This was the last thing I'd been expecting. The longest wall I've ever seen, defending nothing at all. Not only could I not find the base of the people who had built this wall, the only other bases I could find had long ago been raided and were now deep in the decaying process. This was all incredibly strange. However, having recently run out of time to play today, I would have to leave this mystery unsolved for now, but I knew I was far from done here. At some point after I'd logged off, our little starter base up north had been raided. But this wasn't even the weirdest thing. You see, after I'd logged off, one of my boys named Palander had continued farming up supplies, and just to be certain I hadn't missed anything, had done a second scan flying around and checking everywhere, again finding nothing. However, he did find that the cave I'd broken into yesterday had been rebuilt and this time with a heavy turret up front. And this was very confusing, because they didn't live down the cave, but they almost instantly found out that we broke into it and then reinforced it with something that is far from cheap. They'd done all this just to keep us out the cave. And like the walls, all this did was want to make me break it down. However, I was able to notice that the heavy turret had pretty poor line of sight, and so I carved out a path where I would hug the rocks, always aware of the fact that if a single part of my body was exposed for a millisecond, I'd be killed instantly, and managed to creep up to where the wind turbine was housed, blow it up, and with that, the heavy turret no longer had power. Again, I found nothing inside, but this whole incident had shown that these guys were active on the server. They hadn't just set this wall up and left. With this in mind, I came to the conclusion that the only thing at this point that made any sense was that they must live somewhere underwater. So I went and tamed a dolphin. Using this fast little fucker, I was going to scan the entire ocean, including the underwater caves, to see if I could find these guys. In my search, I checked some of the pearl caves, and up north I found evidence of a base that had been raided about a week ago. So the server hadn't always been dead, but all this gave me was more questions. But it was best to just ignore these for now and continue my search. Off the southern coast of Herbivore Island, I found a tame titanosaur belonging to the people who had built the walls. This was incredibly unusual. Titans are a huge pain in the ass to tame, and once you tame them, they don't eat. You can only have them for a very limited amount of time, which means they recently tamed this. As I was getting a closer look at it, suddenly it began moving. There was a rider concealed in the box it had on its back. It began traveling up north through the water, completely ignoring me. So I took a couple bites out of its ass with my dolphin, but this obviously did basically nothing. But again, this didn't make any sense. What would they even tame the Titan for? Everyone on the server's gone. I continued following it on my dolphin all the way up north. I was basically just a fly on the wall. Whatever the fuck this guy was gonna do, I was completely helpless against. With my dolphins getting jumped and eaten by a pair of eels, I was now on foot and wouldn't be able to follow the Titan much longer. As I could do nothing but watch, like an angel from the heavens, a man with an RG and a thylo descended upon the Titan. This was about to be a bloodbath. You see, the primary attack of a thylo deals bleed damage that does percentage-based damage, meaning it doesn't matter how much HP this Titan has, it's going down all the same. Oh my god, he's got a thylo on it! Like some kind of reverse Godzilla, this guy started going back in the water to get the thylo off his back. Looking at chat, I could see that the guys killing the Titan were a tribe known as Tribe of Human 10. They had been a similar small upstart tribe that were seeking to overthrow the tyranny of these wall builders. I hadn't thought much of them at the time, but here they were killing the guy's fucking Titan. But just then, the Titan received reinforcements. One of his buddies was coming by with a pterodon. This was bad. If he picked either the Thylo or RG rider, the Titan would be able to crush them. It was time for me to pitch my weight in. I was going to help in whatever way I could. The guy simply had much better gear than me. He'd killed me in 2 hits. There was simply nothing I could have done about it. But death is but a hurdle. See, we were fighting in a spawn zone, so I respawned and grabbed a bit of gear off my boys. Seeing him come back around, it was time for round 2. Nice. Chad bullet him! Chad bullet him! His gear had once again proven too strong. 4 lay dead, but among that number was his pterodon. He fucked up big time, because here's the thing, he was now trapped on the beach by his own set of walls. You see, if he could just run inland, he'd easily lose us in the jungle, but stuck on the beach, he was easy to track. And what's more, is he'd gone through the effort of despawning all our gear sets, but had missed one. He began running south, leaving the gear set to the north of him. As soon as I picked up this gear set, the grub hive mind activated. See, the person up north with the gear couldn't catch them, so what we would do is have people spawn to the south of him. Without any weapons, they have no chance of killing him. But what they can do is slow him down enough for the northern guy to catch up. He's on the beach now. This is our territory. Okay, he's heading south. Maybe we could catch him. Okay, I see him. I see him off in the distance, boys. I have stamina build. I can run him down, dude. I'm gaining on him. Fuck, I'm right behind him. Does he know? He'd killed me, but this was of no concern. I'd done a lot of damage to him, and soon someone would come from the north, pick up that gear, and take my place. So now it was my turn to spawn down south and slow him down. He's hiding. Okay, that's fine. If he wants to hide. Okay, yes. I can carry him north towards Chad. Oh shit, shotgun. Where are you, dude? We'll distract. Oh shit, he took one of us down. Every second he spent wasting shooting at us was a second the guy with gear was getting closer. Shit! That was like the Matrix, if the main character was a fat, tubby piece of shit. As long as he's wasting time to turn around and shoot at me, that's all good. Oh shit, his buddy? Wait. Just at the exact moment the guy with gear showed up, this guy had been evac'd by his buddy on a pterodon. But notice how even when there's two of them, instead of turning around to fight us, they kept running away. These guys were fucking scared of us. And because we've been fucking with this guy, they hadn't been able to stop their Titan from getting killed. Not only had we found out that these wall builders were real and that they were fucking scared of us, they just lost the most powerful tame possible. You see, after our joint victory, we began speaking with the guys at Tribe of Human 10. And they invited us into a Discord server together. And there we began fucking schmoozing it up. We discussed the irony of the fact that this great wall they had built to protect them had actually attracted both of our tribes to just go and fuck with them. And also a great exchange of knowledge began between my tribe and Tribe of Human 10. So here's what we now knew. The tribe that I've been calling the Wall Freaks, the guys who built the wall and are freaks, were comprised of mainly 3 people, all Russians. Now throughout this story, they're going to change their names a hell of a lot, but moving forward, we're just going to refer to them by their in-game character names. Chingape, Supersonic, and Lena. And they had like a very classic villain dynamic going. Chingape was the smart leader of the tribe. His English was passable at times, and he took great pride in taunting his enemies. Supersonic, who was the guy we had been chasing along the beach, was like the dumb brute of the group. He would just make these large characters that had very high melee damage, which is why he was always able to kill me in 2 hits. And Lena was the secretive, shy one that would mostly spend their time farming resources for the group. Now before, fighting these guys had seemed basically impossible. I mean, we couldn't even find them. But after today's events, where they had been completely humiliated on a server that they all but owned, we now had hope. And so, as I had to leave to go to work, a couple of my boys stayed on and continued farming tames and resources. But the Russians weren't exactly happy with what had happened. Fuck. That's right. Butthurt about the loss of their Titan, Chingape had hopped on an alt account named John, grabbed an assault rifle, and just gunned everybody down with the most obvious aimbot ever. He raided any bases we had and killed every player and tame we had without fail because he just ESP'd, flew over, and just shot down anybody. Everything my boys had farmed up was gone, and we were not alone in getting aimbotted. Tribe of Human 10 also suffered the same fate. So after this happened, I went to do the reasonable thing and of course, report them for aimbotting their asses off. And what do I see but a message saying customer support services temporarily suspended? Maybe it's going to be down for an hour or 2. I go to click on it, and I see that this has been going on for the past 4 months. For 4 months, Wildcard has not been acting on any reports whatsoever. But they are working diligently to solve this issue. And with this final little puzzle piece, I came to the sickening conclusion of what had happened to this server. So, a few months ago, 518 was just like any other isolated server. They're not exactly super popular servers, but they have their niche, so you might see an average of about 15 players at peak time. And at some point, probably a few weeks ago, these Russian wall freaks joined the server and set themselves up like any other tribe. Once moderately established, they just began fighting people and trying to take over the server. Whenever a fight was too difficult or they suffered a particularly heavy loss, they would simply pull out the aimbot. And they can just kind of use that as much as they want, seeing as, I guess there's no one's getting banned for it anymore. And as you can imagine, this is a pretty annoying enemy to fight against. If you beat him, he just comes back and aimbots you. So eventually, the people start logging on less and less. And with people not logging on nearly as often, suddenly it becomes much easier to offline raid everybody's bases, which is what we found in that underwater pearl cave. And with all the old guard now dead and buried and their bases pillaged, The Russian wall freaks earned their name by building a giant wall across the map to prevent any newcomers. But to what end is all of this for? Well, my theory at the time, which would later go on to be confirmed, was that all of this was done literally just to kill the server. And they're not killing the server just so they can be the only ones on there. If that was the case, we'd see some giant base or something. No. This had all been done just for the sake of killing the server. Looking at player statistics shows that once the server's dead, it's not like these guys are hopping on and using it as their own private server. It's just empty. And with the devs just straight up refusing to ban anybody, this had all worked. So, if the devs won't do anything about this, I guess it's down to me and my boys. With the start of day 4, all my boys hopped on, and we began making as many small little bases as we could. Neither stealth nor defense would be an option here. They'd either aimbot or ESP us. And so, quantity was the name of the game. And so, me and the boys set up a bunch of 2x1s all across the map. If they were going to turn on their hacks and fly around and C4 all of them, it wouldn't really matter because these are shit shacks we just put up real quick. Now along the way, one of my boys did get in a fight with them, a 2v1 actually, that he managed to kill one of the guys in, and we began pulling up to help him. But unfortunately by the time we got there, the second guy had run away. But once again, the Russian wall freaks had been humiliated on their own server. With this little altercation over, we returned back to our bases, all tamed up pterodons, and began a mass scouting program. We checked under every tree, in every crevice, and once again scanned every inch of the island. And once again, we didn't find anything. At least, for a while. Our friends at Tribe of Human 10 had found them. Far out from the western shore, up near the sky border, they lived on the back of 2 sky quetzals. And the reason these had taken so long for us to find is that you have to fly incredibly high into the sky before they even render in for you. On here, in the innumerable number of smithies they had, was the loot of an entire server that had been offline. And on here they had every amenity. A bunch of water tanks for storing like a shit ton of water, multiple fridges, and a cannon on the front that they had used to tame the Titanosaur, meaning that time I encountered them near Herbivore Island, this quetzal must have been somewhere nearby. To put so much effort into building an insane wall and then living basically like in a van is insane. But at any rate, now all their shit belonged to our buddies and they were completely wiped out. A frankly anticlimactic victory, but all the same, a good thing had happened here. The day after this, Lena hopped on, and in her broken English explained that they would not be coming back, referring to herself in the third person, and confirmed my theory that the only reason they'd been on the server was just to kill it. But in the end, victory was ours. The Russian wall freaks were defeated, and so, the war was over. Turns out, the war actually wasn't over. A few days after the Skyquets had been found, the Russians hopped on and dropped some butthurt messages to our friends at Tribe of Human 10, and then revealed something very fucking stupid. For whatever reason, they freely gave out the information that they would not try rebuilding on 518, as they'd already succeeded in their goal of killing the server, and would now move on to server 515. This inability to stop himself from running his mouth would be frankly their greatest weakness. Him just giving up what server they were moving on to was the first of the 4 golden keys. Times where these guys just disclose incredibly important information for no reason whatsoever. It seems their own greatest weakness is themselves. And don't worry, I'll point these out as we come to them. Now, I wasn't completely oblivious to the fact that these guys might just straight up be fucking with us to get us to waste our time, and so I put a couple of my few remaining brain cells together and thought. See, I know these guys are Russian, and I know a little bit of Russian myself, and I also know that when Russians join a server, they have a tendency of asking "Ruski есть?" which means something along the lines of, are there any Russians here? So I did exactly that. Hopped on 515, spawned in, and asked. And bingo. And right there's golden key number 2. If these dumbasses hadn't confirmed that they were on here, I would have just thought they were fucking with us. And you know what? Just to give these guys a chance, I changed my name to Thrasybul, which is the Russian form of Thrasybulus, one of the most famous ancient Athenians who was known for his hatred of tyrants. I mean, it wouldn't be a Trafalgar video without at least a little bit of history autism. And just to make it super obvious, I had set my character name to Rex Interfector, which is just Latin for Tyrant Slayer, and all the same Supersonic had failed to see through it, really earning his reputation of a dumb brute. And not only did we now know that they were on the server, we also knew their tribe name, Mario. And so, it seems like our Great War had opened a new front. 515 would be the new battleground. But starting once again from zero, it was time for me to put together some basic gear, as well as getting a feel for the server. Oh! You can go to sleep. So, me and the boys got a base set up and went out, tamed a few pterodons, and scouted out the server. And as I was looking around, I saw a lot of bases that you might consider off meta if you're being charitable. If you're not being charitable, you would just call them an easy raid. And so I was able to see exactly why they picked this server. There was a lot of bases scattered all over the map. I suppose to them, the more people there are, the more fun it is to fuck them over. And in his arrogance, talking shit in global chat, Chingape revealed another one of the golden keys. They're just giving these fucking things out like candy. He told everybody that he didn't have a base and he just lived with nothing but a pterodon and a sleeping bag. He also made the pretty bullshit claim that he doesn't even play the game that often. Like, dude, we saw the 60-mile long wall you built, bro, come on. Looking at the timeline I'd created for 518, we're somewhere around this point. We've seen a couple messages in chat calling out his aimbot already. The server's not dead yet, but it's certainly on its way. So now, it was down to us to stop this right here and now, before he was able to kill off another server. Now firmly established on the server, we could begin our search for these guys' little stash. And based on the information they'd given out, it was very clear that they were using Perlovius to hide their loot. A dino that's able to bury itself underground, and although it leaves a dirt pile for those who buried it, is completely invisible to everybody else. Not a bad way to hide your loot. The only way to detect it is using a parasaur dragged around by an RG, which we now knew to use. And so we began the search. However, coincidentally, my buddy actually managed to run into Chingape and beat him in a fight. I could see why they cheat now. But the funniest part about it was, he was talking an insane amount of shit in chat earlier, and as soon as this happened, he went dead silent. But the area in which they encountered each other was very weird. This spot right here is very out of the way. There's basically no resources that spawn there, and it's not a go-between point between two places of interest. So we started looking around here with the parasaur. And as they were going through and checking Red Ob, my boys detected something.
I hear some weird
Oh,
weird
shit.
ass creep.
What the fuck is going on in there? Torching it, move. Let me try torching it.
Okay, yeah. I'm moving.
Oh, it is a prolonged.
Get it! Yes! It's theirs! Let me see.
Holy fucking sh.
Fucking bingo. There's all his loot. Everything an aimbotter needs to kill off the server is in here. 33 pieces of C4, 15 rockets, the highest possible quality armor in the game, and capped pistols and snipers. Do you have any possible fucking idea how strong an aimbotter is when they have a gun that does triple damage? Plus the blueprints to craft as much of that shit as they want. But don't worry, Mr. Chingape, we'll be more than happy to take that off your hands. So, we went ahead and picked all this up, brought it back to base, and safely hid it away. All that loot gone, just because Chingape couldn't keep his fucking mouth shut. I mean, the boys had done good today. After we had found Chingape's stash, he wasn't heard from for multiple days, and so I began to worry. What if he had moved on to another server and was now griefing them, not having told anybody about where he was going? I was explaining this dilemma to a couple boys who had helped me out on the server. One of them, named Mego Tribe Blue, because he has a propensity to always be in a giant tribe. A little bit of a side note, but one time I was catching up with him and I asked him, are you in a tribe in Ark right now? And he said, yeah, but it's just a small one. So being the fool I am, I asked him, oh really? How many many people do you have? And he told me 40. So yeah, he's earned his moniker of Mego Tribe Blue. And so he told me about a tool that some of the tribes he's been in had used that allowed them to track what servers people had been on. Now normally this would be kind of a scummy thing to use, but considering what Chingape's doing, I feel it's only fair. So I inquired more about it and set it up. The Albert 1984 surveillance state was created, and this tool gave me so much information. I could see who was on the server, when they joined, when they left, what other servers they were playing on. And so I set up monitors for Chingape, Lena, and Supersonic. Through these, I could see that they hadn't moved to any server. They were still on 515, but they were just biding their time. And I was also able to see them continually change their Steam names, hoping to hide from us. Big Albert was watching. But also, side note, if you want to avoid being tracked by a tool like this yourself, make sure to disable VoIP. With great power comes great responsibility, and I intend only to use this tool against these guys. It's only fair considering they're cheating their asses off. Now for about 10 days after their stash was found, all was well and quiet. They weren't even hopping on. But slowly and steadily, like some kind of infestation, they began making their return. They would hop on at ungodly hours, just farming up while nobody was online. And then, a few days after that, they just began offlining people. Instead of waiting until they had killed off the server to offline everybody, they were instead just waking up at hours where no one was on and hitting everybody they could. A couple bases were lost. Seeing this, I tasked one of my boys, Chad, who for some reason has an ungodly ability to make people like him, to go out and create a Discord with members from every tribe in there. And so, using this Discord, we could alert these people of what was happening and coordinate to work against them. About a week after the Discord was created, the Russians began their greatest attack yet. Once again, when almost nobody was online, they went out and tamed a Titan. And with this, they began steamrolling any bases they could find. By the time most people hopped on, this attack was already over. And in the newly made server Discord, some of these people said they weren't even going to bother rebuilding. Chingape's plan was working. He was killing off yet another server. And trust me, we were looking everywhere. And not just us, the whole server was looking for this fucking guy. We couldn't find anything. It got to a point where, frankly, most of us, me included, thought that they were simply living in the mesh. But on one of these trips where we went out looking for them, we found something. Oh yeah, I see. Some random guy's base on the beach was getting 3v1'd. It wasn't the Russians attacking him, just some other tribe, but all the same, he could use a helping hand. So, we pitched in.
No, they have bike. Look out, they have bike.
There's two.
There's like 3 of them, what the fuck?
I'll start torching him. I'm bullet, bro. Well, I just run straight in and gotten myself killed, so that wasn't too great. But luckily my boys cleaned them up and, yeah, saved me from completely humiliating myself. And so we had saved a guy called Dragon He from being raided, and he was incredibly thankful for the help we'd given him. Dragon He was just a chill-ass dude. But also, apparently, the poor guy had been raided 7 times in 3 days. So I can really see why he appreciated us helping him out. And so we continued our search for the Russian wall freaks. But Dragon He dropped a message saying his raiders were back, so we made our return. Arriving at Dragon He's base, we couldn't see anybody, but scouting out the nearby area, we found his attackers. Living on a 3x3 wooden raft, we decided that they were gonna pay the price for fucking with our boy. Pick you up and put you on top. And, oh, open door opened, one's out.
I'm kind of stuck inside this foundation. Can you like pick me and unpick me really quick?
Yeah.
Bullet one.
C-spin.
Going down.
Be careful. Abusing the raft mechanics, they had glitched Lou under the foundations where he was now drowning. Oh, it glitched into the inside of the raft. That's so lame, bro. They're killing it. But even worse than that, they'd glitched one of our pterodons inside the raft. I'm putting it on neutral so it fucks him up a little bit at least. It won't go easily. Dude, it's winning!
Okay. Quick.
I'm hitting. I think they bowled it.
I was like,
keep fighting, PT, keep fighting. Rescue the fucking thing, bro. He's moving the raft,
If they move,
Lou, are you free?
Get out.
save me.
It's out. Somehow, all 3 of them got massacred inside the raft by a pterodon. I mean, you can look at this thing and tell it doesn't have very good HP or damage, but somehow they got clapped up by one.
Yeah, I can.
I'm keeping an eye on this guy. Kid's trying to bowl me. Where the fuck is this kid going? Bullet him. After this, they were forced to flee. Now, we gave chase, but they had enough materials to upgrade their raft to stone, as well as place a turret up front. But we weren't gonna give up easy. We knew that as soon as we left, these guys would go straight back and start fucking with Dragon He again. And seeing as they were willing to play dirty, so would we. So we built a dick, a dangerous incapacitation contraption. A raft that you can just push into another raft and it'll completely immobilize it. Now they saw exactly what we were doing and made a run for it. And so began one of my longest chases ever. Because all rafts move at the same speed, we could only ever gain ground on them when they made a small little mistake, and even then we'd gain literally inches of lead on them. But eventually we caught up to them, dicked them up, and so they were fucked. Taking no chances with these guys, we took what we wanted and destroyed the raft when we were done. Listen, if you're gonna 3v1 some guy that's been attacked fucking 2 times every day for the past 3 days, I feel like this is a pretty apt punishment. With this all done, we returned to our search for the Russian wall freaks, which, like it had been before, was fruitless. A few days after having saved Dragon He, I went to visit my boy and see how he was doing, and found his base just completely gone. Not raided or pillaged or wiped down to a couple foundations, just fucking gone. Upset that Dragon He had had the fucking audacity to rebuild after being raided so many times, the Russian wall freaks, on one of their mass offlining sprees with a Titan, had simply wiped him off the map. A fucking Titan being used to destroy a 4x3 stone base, just to make the guy not want to play the fucking game. It was frankly just upsetting. And so, a few days later, when someone on the server managed to alert me that they were currently offlining bases, I hopped on to help. All I knew is that they were somewhere up north offlining one of the Pearl Caves. So I equipped the Goblin skin, a mark of extreme heroism, hopped on a Thylo, and went to see what I could do. He'd spotted me with a pterodon. I needed to dodge his picks. I dodged his first couple of attempts, but I'd been underprepared. He'd picked me, dragged me to turrets, and me and my Thylo were dead. But I wasn't going to give up on those being offline. I respawned, re-geared, and this time grabbed a pterodon. And then we received some good news. The owner of the base that was currently being raided would be on within 2 hours. Their turrets had enough ammo to hold them off for a while. All I needed to do was buy him some more time, and so I began speaking to the Russians in Latin. You see, I could type out these messages a hell of a lot quicker than they could put them through a translator. And so with this, I could keep them tied up for a while just translating my messages. Every second spent doing that was a second where they weren't making progress on the base. However, eventually they began to simply ignore these messages. So I switched over to Russian. Now frankly, my Russian, and even my Latin for that matter, is pretty horrid, but it's just enough to keep their attention. And so I began to ramble. I spoke of Pushkin and of the Romans, and for a while, this too drew their attention. But eventually, they tired of my tricks. I had delayed them plenty, but this wasn't enough. And with the only other guy nearby opposing them pushed back, I was the last measure standing in their way. And so it was time to get my hands dirty. You see, back in the day, I'd been good at PT pick fights. Like really good. But that had been years ago. But with nothing else standing in their way, for the server's sake, let's hope I'm still any good. It's time to break a leg. He was on my 6. One pick and I'd be dead. No room for error. I could see him going for a feint. I took the height advantage over him. After all these years, I still got it. Ripped off his bird, I moved in to punish him. He had a capped fabricated sniper. A couple shots from that thing would kill my bird, and then I'd be good as dead. He just tried to shoot me through that rock. Holy shit, he just tried to shoot me through that rock! The guy had his wall hacks on, so time to take him on a wild goose chase. He's right on me. He had more stamina than me. I needed to bait a couple picks out of him. He landed to gain stamina. Time to get some ground on him. But he caught up to me. He was on my 6 again. After this, I was able to make a clean getaway. Not that he didn't see where I was going, he just simply decided I wasn't worth the effort anymore. I had distracted them for a very long time, but the base owner still wasn't back just yet. Once more, I'd have to put my life on the line to distract them as long as I could. He was parachuting with a sniper out. I needed to get distance. I just barely managed to limp away alive. These distractions weren't going to work anymore. They still needed me, but I was all out of tricks. Well, there was one trick left. See, at this point, these guys think I'm a complete pushover and I run away as soon as I get in a fight with them. So, what I can let him do is pick me, get overconfident, and then try beating him in a ground fight. This would be my riskiest play yet, but it was all we had left. I bullet his pterodon. Neither of us were running away from this fight. He killed my PT, so now I'll kill his. An eye for an eye. I bullet him. The dumb bastard can't move for 30 seconds. I got him. I fucking got him. Okay, that's cool. He just 2 taps. But all the same, no matter how well I played, it didn't matter. I'd played my hand perfectly, but winning simply hadn't been in the cards. I'd have to hit the guy more than 10 times to kill him. He only had to hit me twice. And even if I had somehow magically killed him, his buddy would have flown over, turned on his aimbot, and gotten all that gear straight back. I was spent, and I had nothing left to throw at these guys. And worst of all of our efforts had only managed to limit the damage they had done, not prevent it entirely. The Pearl Cave we'd worked so hard to defend was done for. And so, it was hopeless. No matter what victory we scored over these guys, it was a question of when, not if they would kill off the server. The fate of 515 was to be completely empty of players with a wall spanning the entire beach, just like 518. Hell, we're already halfway there. Server population's already taken a big hit. Utterly defeated, I logged out. On the 7th of April, Supersonic did something very stupid, even by his standards. He revealed the 4th golden key to us. I'd bet you've forgotten about those. Now before I reveal exactly what that is, do you remember at the start of the video when I referenced that the UK government had helped us in our endeavors? Well, here enters the 2023 Online Safety Act. Now this mildly Orwellian bill is quite expansive, but for our purposes the only fact that matters is that it applies to any companies selling video games that include player-to-player communications in the UK, say for example Ark Survival Ascended. And among the many things that this law requires, the most important one is that legally, any reports from the players regarding the player-to-player communications must be looked at. And so now, let's assume there's a guy called Supersonic who's just a little bit slow. And for whatever reason, in the global chat of an Ark server, he decides to post a link to the cheating client he uses. And since this message was sent using player-to-player communications, if someone were to report it, well then, the developers are legally obligated to take a look at it. And that's how Supersonic got all his boys banned. That's right, Wildcard is happy to let you cheat and aimbot as much as you please. But I guess if there's a law that requires them to actually look at reports, then they'll look at those and those reports only. We had managed to delay the hackers long enough to the point where they fell on their own swords. A few days ago, it had seemed completely hopeless. And now here we were, victorious. It was all finally over. So, where are they now? After his banning, Chinghe popped on an alt account and began once again terrorizing server 515. But he seems not to have been joined by his buddies in this endeavor, and for whatever reason seems to have given up. Whether he got banned again, or just couldn't do it without his slaves farming for him, who knows? Whereas both Supersonic and Lennis seem to have just given up after getting banned the first time. And looking at their profiles, I can see that they haven't gone to any other servers. Seems like they've gotten a global server ban. Now as for server 515, The servers just about survived the experience, with a couple tribes continuing on, but there's been a pretty heavy hit to the player base. Whereas we might have seen around 15 players at peak time before, now we see about 8 or 7. But all things considered, could have been a hell of a lot worse. Now as for server 518, and if you remember that's the one we'd originally joined with the wall, something miraculous had happened. Under the stewardship of my boys at Tribe of Human 10, the server's making a bit of a comeback. Now don't let me paint it as if it's like some full pop capped server or anything, but we've gone from averages of about 0 to 1 players in the dark ages to averaging around 5 or 6 today. And the main reason behind that is, my boys at Tribe of Human 10 went out and tamed a titan, named it Kurt, and tore down the wall. Now I wanted to get a look at this myself, so I hopped on the server and took a look around, and would you believe it, the wall's almost entirely destroyed. You can actually play the fucking game now. Not only that, I saw some bases actually being built on the server. The people setting up on the server have no idea of the storied history of the server before them. An antique land where 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand alone on the beach. Near them, on a pedestal, are engraved the words, "My name is Chingape, King of Kings. Look upon my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains." I felt it would only be appropriate to add my own stamp to this world, and so I made a large taxidermy base of my own skinned body flying in the air, blown up to massive proportions, as well as a sign marking the very first spot that I had ever seen the wall, which had set everything into motion. To think that this had all happened because of a stupid bit I was doing where I would just join a random server to show off my loading screen. If you guys want to come and check it out, it's at these coordinates on server 515 until some asshole decides to destroy it. And so, where does that leave me and my boys? Well, as the closest thing I can do to giving out a medal, I made a Discord role called the Bane of Hackers and gave that out to everybody who had helped me in my endeavors. And as for Goblin Bert himself, well, I'll be creeping around in the shadows, waiting for the next person that needs fucking with. Thank you to everyone who helped me along the way, from the people who joined on my stream, to those of 515, to, who could forget, Tribe of Human 10 on 518. The fact that we actually had friends was probably our biggest advantage over these guys. And then of course, thank you for watching, because you know that's kind of like the whole point of a video, with of course a special thank you to my YouTube members. Your guys' generous contributions help keep Albart out of poverty. Special thank you to Anchorwing, Swentiki96, Artist Mercurial, Warsix, Heath Hothead Dione, Mateos, Brady Jarvis, Kagan Zarin, and Jolly Ending 07 at the Big Fella tier, and an extra special thank you to Pebble Penguin 252, Pendragon, Kyle Ratliff, and David F at the Albertus Lover tier. Big ups, boys.